completely different relationship that I ever had with him, because I knew he was trying to take my dad's spot. I wasn't going to have that. I kind of missed a little bit, but I started smoking cigarettes when I was, well, me and my best friend Allie, she was in our wedding, for people that were there and around that. She was one of my maid of honors. We started smoking cigarettes. She was 2 years older than me. I think I was, I want to say 6, 7. We stole them from her mom. And then they moved away. They moved out they moved out in Nebraska, a little deeper into Nebraska. So, first cigarette was at 6, 7, 8 years old. Moved to my mom's current house that she's still living in now. Mom went through a lot, and I know that now that I've been sober. So what I don't want to do today is degrade my mom. However, I was a lot for her. And I know I was a lot for her, because I was so mad. So mad. She would always tell us that he didn't care for me and Jake. He had a new family, that he was never around, which, it kind of is what it is. He did start a new family. So in 2005, my youngest brother was born, which he is in boot camp in San Diego right now for the Marine Corps. He was born a year after, literally to the date, my little sister, my only sister, was born. That was my favorite thing, because shortly after, I think in 2006, that's when Katrina hit, right? Was it 2006 or 2005?
Something like that.
2006, 2005, whenever Katrina hit, it was right after Kira was born, though, because Shell had to go down to Louisiana, to help with Katrina, because she was in the National Guard. So she went down and did that. So my dad and mom, my parents lived 45 minutes away from one another. My dad was only allowed to get us every other weekend. No weekdays, only every other weekend. So dad wasn't around for that. Which made me angry, because I was a daddy's girl. My brother was a mommy's boy, And I'm jumping all over the place, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to do that. I'm a little nervous, if you can't tell. So kind of go back to Kevin. So he moved in. It didn't really change. My mom and Kevin fought a lot. I don't know how that relationship progressed to what it did, but it lasted about 8 years of my life. I believe. Yeah, 8 years. 7 years? Whatever. He was always yelling at me, because I never listened to him, and I really didn't care to listen to him. Our house was very controversial. And at that point, I started to, well, I think a couple years later, I started to pop pills. It wasn't anything too serious, but if I found a bottle, I was checking it, seeing what it was, and I was taking it. But at the same time, I hated how things were going. I felt like I was the reason for my parents' divorce. I felt like that was the reason that he was never around after that. Mom started getting just angry. She had her heart broke, and I know this now, and I'm able to say that now she did the best she could. I know she did the best she could, but I was a rebel child, if you would. My brother had he's gotten a lot better, but my brother had really bad anger problems. He would throw knives at me growing up, so I had to watch him, because it was just me, my mom, Kevin and Jake, and they worked. So after school, you remember when your parents wrote on the back of envelopes your to-do list for that day before you can go watch TV, go play games, go outside with your friends, all of that kind of thing. We had that every single morning. Mom would write something for us to do, and then we rode the bus home, which I got bullied by the bus driver. I think for a good solid until I could start driving. I was bullied by my bus driver. He was an asshole, and he thought it was just really funny to mess with little girls, I guess. Um, let's see. So I struggled with living with my mom bad for the longest time up until 2011. I wanted to just move with my dad. I wanted to live with my dad. I wanted nothing to do with my mom. Which probably hurt her. It hurt me in the long run. But uh I don't think there was ever a day that my parents didn't talk badly about one another. Whether it's them talking to me about dad doesn't care, he's got a new family, this and that, or they were on the phone yelling at each other on their cell phones with either with me in the car or with me around. Um, it was it was kind of crazy, and that's why I hate confrontation. Um, I hate when people are mad at me because I always thought they were. Um, Sorry guys. I'm trying to recollect where I'm exactly at. Uh so when I was 11, me and we had a lot of family friends that I call my siblings. Well, I did call my siblings. So me and we'll call her my stepsister, Lee. She lived out in Hancock, Iowa, a tiny little town. I think it's probably the size of the town that we live in now, love. Uh, and we were walking back from the pool. Um, and we were grabbed by a couple of grown men. Um, which thankfully I was with Lee because she kicked him in their no squares. And we got ourselves out. But I went back to her dad's house and took a shower, and that's the first time I've ever cut myself. Self-harm. And um that kind of started my spiral down. Um all I remember is, well, I remember a lot, but there was blood. I don't know if I hit my head or what, but other than that, I cut myself, and that was a very, very hard thing to stop doing after I got sober. But I haven't since. So that is definitely a positive. I was very, very quiet after that. Very quiet, very angry, very reserved. Um uh I never told a soul. Um to be honest with you, this is the second time I have ever talked about it. The first time was the first time I ever told my story. But it's just something you try to brush out of your mind. I don't know what would have happened to me if we didn't get out of that van, but I'm very lucky that I wasn't by myself. Um, at the age of 12, my stepmom's sister is, I think, 6 years older than me. That checks. Yeah, 6 years older than me. She graduated high school when I was 12. Went out to her house, or well, my grandparents' house, for her graduation party. We stayed the night, and since I was the mature, quiet niece of hers, I got to party with all of her friends. So we had a bonfire. We were drinking beer. It's the first time I ever smoked weed. Um, I remember them throwing a hay bale on top of the fire, and the fire went, and me just rolling. Huh?
We have an ad break.
I'll pause. I'm gonna pause for the ad. Tell me when.
All right, you're good.
We're good?
Yep.
Okay. Um, I was talking about the graduation. Yeah. Okay. So, um, I remember they threw one of her friends threw a hay bale into the fire pit, which exploded. I rolled backwards. Hi, Kyla. Come here. Um, I rolled backwards, which, being 12, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And then me and my aunt Ashley went for a walk where we smoked some more weed. And at that point, my aunt Tammy, excuse me, who was my cousins that we adopted, their mom, came, rolled up on us, and we hit that ditch. And she asked us what we were doing. We were like, oh, nothing, just hanging out, walking. Ashley, my aunt, was smoking a cigarette. Surprising, well, actually not surprisingly, because she was, in that time, she was, doing drugs and all that kind of good stuff. Um, but that was the first time I ever smoked weed. Smoked a fuck ton of cigarettes that night. But my aunt Ashley was the best. Oh, was the best. That's the key word, was. Um, so then come to what, seventh and eighth grade. On top of popping pain pills, I had a friend who comes back up in the story during my meth use. But I had a friend who would bring me Vyvanse. Or Adderall, one of the two. I think it was Adderall to start, and then it turned into Vyvanse. But we would we would bring bottles of vodka and orange juice. He would bring the vodka, I'd bring the orange juice, and between classes we would pass it back and forth. Um, Started skipping school with my best friend at the time, and she somehow had a school permit to be able to drive. So at like 14, we were she would come pick me up, and we would drive to the mall parking lot. We would smoke a joint, and then smoke cigarettes, and then go into work, or not work, go into school, go to mass because I was at a Catholic school. Um 8th grade, I had a couple fist fights. That was my first real angry time. I had a couple fist fights. Never got caught. Never got caught for fighting. Never got caught for smoking. Never got caught for smoking weed either, which was very weird. I remember one day going to mass, and I'm sitting in mass, and it was just after getting communion, and I look at my teacher. I'm like, I need to go home. My stomach hurts. Really, I was fucking hungry. I had the munchies. Um, Freshman year, I got to move to a public school, which I fucking ruined. But the day before freshman year started, we had some friends over at my mom's house. She had no idea because she was at work. And a guy that was at my high school at my Catholic school, came into my bedroom and raped me. And didn't tell a soul. Surprisingly nobody heard it, but he had the music blasting. Um Crazy enough, my sophomore year in high school, I went to the same school that he was going to again, and he acted like nothing fucking happened. That was the worst year I think I've ever had in school. Because I couldn't tell anybody. I wasn't supposed to have friends over at my house. My mom and Kevin would have just that wouldn't have been good. Um, that started a huge, even deeper depression. Um, um, yeah. So Kevin at that time ended up breaking both of his ankles. He fell off a two-story deck trying to draw or carry a washer or a dryer down the steps, and the dryer smashed his legs. So he was in an electric wheelchair for a while. I would always steal that, and drive around our neighborhood with it because why not, you know? He hated that. He absolutely hated that. But that next year, I was the lucky person to find out that he was having an affair with, just give me a second, with, my older brother's mom. He was having an affair with my older brother's mother. And if y'all remember back when, I think it was MySpace days, to be honest with you, he kept his MySpace up on my mom's laptop. So I went to go check my MySpace, and lo and behold, the messages are right there. I ran over to my aunt's house, and my mom and my aunt they still live right behind one another, which kind of was cool growing up. But ran over there because it was on Thanksgiving Day. Kevin's kids, he had two kids, Sydney and Josh, that came down for the holidays that year. They actually stayed from like October till December, I believe. But I ran over there, said, Mom, I need you to come home with me. I need to show you something. By the time we got back, it was gone. It was down. He had already closed up his MySpace. He had been sleeping with her for about a year at that point. It was at that point where my mom noticed that her wedding rings that were supposed to go to me and my brother when we got married, those were stolen. Money that I had hidden away in my room, that was stolen. Come to find out, Kevin was stealing everything. He was a construction guy, so he built houses. He worked for one of the well-known realtors in Council Bluffs at that time. He would steal things from them and bring it to some abandoned house that him and her would go to and do whatever the hell they did. That was a part of my life. So at that time, my oldest brother, which I probably shouldn't say this here, but I'm gonna say it. When I was 15, my oldest brother was on meth, and he messaged me on Facebook telling me that he was changing his name. He didn't want to be a Pace. My maiden name is Pace, like Pace pecani sauce. That we were absolutely nothing to him. That if he saw me, he'd kill me. And me and my mom and my brother actually saw him walking down the street, and you know, people who have been on drugs, you see glossy eyes, you know what's going on. And he was higher than a kite. But to this day, he will deny that conversation. He'll deny ever saying that to me, which is fine. It's whatever. But it happened. Let's see. So freshman year, I got into another fist fight with this girl, which is crazy because I grew up with this woman, or now she's a woman. She wasn't back then. She was a little bitch. I grew up with this girl, but in freshman year of high school, she was talking smack about, she was talking smack about my family. She was talking smack about my mom, my brothers, my dad. So in between classes, she was walking down the hallway and I grabbed her head, and in like cafeteria, you have the doors, but the middle piece of the door, I slammed her head into that and just started pounding. I got picked up by two friends that walked me away and told me, we probably shouldn't continue doing that. You got her enough. That's it. You're done. At that point is when my great grandmother died. My mom's mom's mom, Grandma Dar. She was a heaven sent. So was my grandma Linda. But she fell trying to, after I think going to breakfast with some friends, she went up the front porch, which didn't have railings, and she lost her balance and fell backwards. She was bruised from here, all of this. She was, I think, in the hospital for maybe a month before she passed. But that was really hard. That hit our family really hard. I spoke at her funeral. That was a weird time in my life. But that was 2009, I think. 2010. Yeah, 2009, 2010. 2011. Well, no. So I met my other maid of honor in our wedding, Jordan. She was my best friend for a very, very long time. But I met her. She was dating one of my exes, which is crazy. Hated her for dating him, but then she realized that he was a piece of shit. And broke up with him. We were best friends. She had a 1.5-year-old at that time. He was the cutest little shit ever, but she was struggling too with some active use. We would do triple C's. I don't know if you guys know what those are. So triple C's are cough medicines. Jordan and I would take 3 boxes worth, and we would trip out our fucking minds. I tripped to the point where I watched myself in Lion King ride a giraffe, guys. I rode a giraffe. In my mind, but I still drew. I still rode a giraffe. I started drinking heavily. We would always do Smirnoff Ices, which was crazy because she was only 3 years older than me. So I don't know how the hell she got the tobacco stores to give her alcohol, but she did. But her family members were prescribed Vyvanse. So I know when I was like in 7th grade, 8th grade, I dabbled in Vyvanse and stuff, but it wasn't really my thing. Pain pills were more my thing at that time until I was 16. I I think I was 16. When I was 16, I found out that that I was pregnant. Um and the dude pushed me down a flight of stairs when he found out that I was pregnant. And Kyla lost that baby. Nobody other than Jordan really knows about that. It's not something that I really just talk about or anything. But after that, I started doing just everything under the sun that I could do. It was at that time that Jordan actually got pregnant with her second baby, and with someone who was very, 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 very abusive. This guy was horrible. There was one day, I think she was about 7 months pregnant. He showed up at her house. I was there because I was always there. I pretty much lived at Jordan's house for a while.
No.
And he showed up. I had her locked in my car, in my vehicle. It was probably 11:30 at night. And he came up to my face. He was all in my face. Where the fuck is she? Da, 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 da. I'm like, yeah, I ain't telling you where she's at, bro. He walked to his car, got a gun, walked back over to me and put it up to my head and said, where the fuck is she? I said, I am not telling you. Not telling you. Shoot me. Go ahead. I don't give a fuck what you do, but you're not gonna continue to abuse my best friend. I told him, hey, just remember who my family is, because he knew my brothers, he knew my dad. My dad was actually his football coach, in the little leagues. Said, pull the trigger, but I can guarantee you that, you'll be dead within tomorrow. So, do it if you want. He got in his car, ran away. Jordan and I went to my mom's house, filed a police report on him. She got a Danko on him. He never has been a part of his son's life. I think Gaby is 13 now. Come to find out, just maybe a few months ago, dude passed away. He got cancer and passed away, which we can all just think of what's going in my mind right now. But I don't know. Got that report done. When I was 17, I got into a relationship with a female. Which, if you know anything about Catholics, is not something that is looked at as a good thing. I was pretty much shunned from my family. But I played it off to my mom as she was just a best friend, stuff like that. Came to really moving out. I constantly fought with my mom about it. She hated which, to be fair, my mom was not wrong. She was a piece of shit, which we'll get to that. So my senior year in high school, I lived in Missouri Valley, Iowa. Drove back and forth to and from school, and if I couldn't get to school, I called my guidance counselor, who actually lived not too far from me, out there, and she would bring me just my homework and stuff. Jolene was psycho. Jolene was fucking psychotic. So, and I wish I would have seen it before, but we live and we learn, baby. We live and we learn. We got an apartment in Nebraska when I was 18, which is crazy. So Iowa, you have to be 18. You're 18 as an adult, but in Nebraska, when you're 19, you're an adult. But since I had already moved out of my mom's and everything like that, I found a kind of like the place we lived at in Norwood. I found a place that had a house that had four separate apartments in it. It was literally $450 a month. It was freaking heaven sent. Uh, she wouldn't let me work. She wouldn't work. So I was a bartender at a concert place, which was actually connected to a casino too. So I think I made over $1,000 in tips every single night that I bartended for a concert. It was insanity, but it was so much fucking fun to do. Uh, so going back, driving about 45 minutes to go to work, to go to school. Actually, I was graduated at that time, but uh, she's the one that cut my hair. She cut my hair. My hair was long. She cut it. Uh, she had a job for 2 days the entire time we were together. We got together in 2012. We broke up in 2000. Well, I guess we were only together for 2 years, but we broke up in 2014 after she had cut my hair. I left all of her stuff in my driveway. Um, and that was that. She moved to Kansas with her mom. Shortly after that happened, I didn't meet her. I've known her. I started talking to another female named Lindsay. And Lindsay was something else. For one, she made me quit my job. I worked as a security guard at a feed mill, which I worked 16-hour shifts, about 7 days a week, depending on the month. It was one of the other funnest jobs I've ever had. I loved doing that kind of work. However, I got over my fear of got over my semi fears. Does that make sense? Please tell me if that made sense. And I think within like 4 months of dating, she somehow got me to make up my mind from leaving my own apartment to moving in with her fucking sister back to Council Bluffs, Iowa. Lindsay at that time was we were smoking weed, we were drinking, popping pills. She was really bad in doing pain pills. And I think that's where mine grew more and more and more and more. We moved in, well, so kind of go back a little bit. Before I moved in with her sister back at home, I had Lindsay and her mom living with me because her mom had a stroke. She needed a place to live. Nobody had a job other than fucking me. But then we moved back with her sister. All three of us did. We started working at Casey's gas station. It was actually a brand new store that when I first started, it was a brand new store, just opened, I opened it with them. I did donuts at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and then I would move to subs and pizza and everything like that. I did everything at that place, but it was around that time where I slowly just started losing everything. I had two puppy dogs, one named Brock, one was Prince. Prince was a dog that I got when I was 16 years old. I watched one of my friends' dad beat him, and kick him into a wall, and that was when I grabbed him and I said, "Hey, I'm taking this dog." He lived up until 2018. Actually, the first time I ever went back to Iowa, I had to go put him back down. He had cancer, but when I moved back to Council Bluffs, I had my mom take Prince, so nothing ever happened to him. I sold Brock. I gave him to a nice family that had some children. I still had my cat. But life was wild at that time. So Lindsay wasn't loyal. Lindsay was messing with. She had a trio of us, which I'm friends with I'm not friends with Lindsay, but I'm not gonna name drop who they are right now, but she would go back between all three of us, and we ended up finding out that she would leave my house, or she would leave her sister's house where I was, go over to the other person's house, and go over to the other person's house, and come back like a day later back to me. um it was wild. uh Throughout that time, I would work, do pain pills, smoke a bunch of fucking weed, drink. That was the time when I worked at Casey's. Every single day before my shift, I would take a shot of vodka. Why? Shitty way to start a shitty day, I guess. I don't know. In September of 2014, my dad had called me and told me that my grandpa was in the hospital. Was it September? It was September or October. But it was in 2014. In September or October, my grandpa, so in 2007, my grandpa had a quadruple bypass surgery. They messed it up. There was blood spewing from an artery, which they fixed. Luckily, they fixed, but 7 years later is when he finally took his last breath. He was the only one that never judged me for anything. I was able to bring one of the girls that she cheated on me with. Her and I, we looked at each other and we were like, let's go see Grandpa. And so we drove down to Arkansas and saw Grandpa in the hospital. And he took both of our hands and looked at us and said, "Are you happy?" And I said, "Well, yeah." He's like, "That's all that fucking matters." Um, he was really getting really, really bad. He ended up passing away um that following month in November. Uh During that time, from the first time I went down there till when he passed away, November 30th, 2014, I was stuck on Opanas and Dilaudid. Anything I could really get my hands on, but that was my jam. November 30th at about 6:34 a.m. Yeah, how the fuck I remember that? It's crazy. I received a text saying that Grandpa Everett had passed away. And that hit me really, really hard. I still talk to him probably every day. Sorry, guys, hold on. Nope. Nope, 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 nope. Okay. So he passed on November 30th. We drove down to Arkansas and had his funeral on his birthday, December 4th. Came home, I think, 2 days later. And, on December 8th, I drove one of my best friends. His name was Jeff. He asked me if I could drive him across town to go to a gas station to to get an oil burner. Which, if you know, you know. I did not know. I guess he was banned from that gas station. And I purchased my first meth pipe on that day. Not knowing what I purchased. So I came back to where I was living, which was still Lindsay's sister's house, crazy enough. And he started loading it up with some meth. And I looked at him and I said, absolutely fucking not. Nope, can't do it. Nope, won't do it. Famous words, you only gotta try it once. Only do it once, give it a try. So I snorted it. And let me tell ya, I fucking loved it. I went hard for about a month. Me, Jeff, and my best friend that when I was in 7th grade, we were smoking weed and smoking cigarettes together. Found out she was doing it too. And we went hard. That's the first time I've ever seen somebody drop from meth use. She didn't die or anything, but we were in the middle of talking and all of a sudden she down onto the concrete. Chipped her fucking tooth right here. It was wild. You think that would have scared me straight? Absolutely not. I think I got a lot worse after that. I don't think oh, that's crazy. I fucking messed that up a little bit. Went hard in the paint for a while. At that I was dating a 36-year-old female at that point. She had no idea. By the way, I was 18 turning 19. So I was 18 turning 19 dating a 36-year-old. And things kind of got wishy-washy and I ended up moving in with her. Jeff and I both did. We both moved into Jess's house. It ended up being not a trap house because she wasn't on drugs. She smoked weed. She drank a little bit, but it wasn't anything like that. But there was 9 other people living there. We lived with her mom, her, Jeff, and there was 4 other people, 5 other people. Something like that. 8 or 9 people. Don't get me on the details there. January 6th, 2015 is the first time I ever tried acid. I contemplated my entire life and I almost killed myself on that day. I told them both not to do it. We had it planned for that day to try to do acid. We were gonna watch Alice in Wonderland. It was gonna be a good time. However, I was fighting with Lindsay because Lindsay couldn't just let people go. I was fighting with Lindsay and we were all there. I walked to the bathroom. I probably was in there for like 45 minutes or something, but my best friend at the time walked into me having a knife to my throat. That month from November to January the following month was a fucking disaster for me. Everything went to shit. Pills weren't doing it anymore, so I quit pills March 15th, 2015. Haven't touched one since other than with my foot. But I take them prescribed. I don't ever want to get my mind to a different point. You know what I mean? But my foot and surgery is the only other time I've had pain pills. But I don't have the need to escape anymore. I don't feel like I never felt like I needed to escape once I got sober. So being at Rissa's house, I had my friend move in with her 2 kids. And their mom, my friend, we were driving to Lincoln, Nebraska probably once a week to go get some pain pills, for her to use. She had no idea I was on meth at that time, but she liked to party. Her daughters, so I'd babysit her when she went out to drink, or I was with them all the time. I have a picture of them both sleeping across my legs. But I had said something to her about, taking the kids somewhere, and she just started just turning on me a bit. But anyways, April 2015, one of my long-term friends took me down to Texas. And she knew I needed to get away. She knew I needed some time by myself. Get away from the fucking craziness that I was going through. But she didn't know I was on meth. And so I brought a nice bag with me. But went down to Texas, and let me tell you, that same way Noah felt about Texas, I felt. When you cross that border, there's just something about Texas, man. It's just a beautiful, beautiful state. But at that time, we went down, saw one of her boyfriends or saw a boyfriend of hers that she was seeing at the time, and spent, I think, a week down there. Came back up, went back down a month later with her again to see the same guy. And at that point, she knew, or we got these tattoos, Ohana. I got that tattoo. She has the same matching tattoo as me. So when I get back, down there, while I was down there, Rissa somehow found out that I was on meth, kicked me out. I lost everything everything that I had at that point, Rissa and Gabby just fucking destroyed. So when I went down to Texas the first time, Rissa and Gabby started dating. Which, whatever. But they started dating, and I started living with my friend Casey at that time, and we both loved to party. We both loved the same things. Fast forward to 4/20, 2015. So when I lived with Rissa, we lived with Jeff's girlfriend, who was my best friend at the time, another dude that was a couple years younger than me, Jake, Gabby, her 2 kids, Rissa, another person, her mom, Rissa's mom. Okay. Well, Jake came over to Casey's house. And at that point, I thought we were all friends. You know, I knew Rissa and Gabby were mad at me because I was on meth, whatever. But so was Jeff. So was Jake. And so was Tara. But somehow I was the only one excluded out from all of that. But on 4/20 in 2015, someone laced a blunt. We smoked a blunt that big. Jake laced a blunt with Xanax, and I missed 5 days of my life. During those 5 days, he drove my car, wrecked my car. Police showed up to that wreck. Apparently, I talked to the police, not knowing, I'm not entirely sure how they didn't know I was on drugs. Ended up going to the hospital, had a neck brace on because I went into the windshield. Of course, I wasn't wearing my seatbelt. So everything that I'm stating now is things that I got told that happened to me during this time, other than one factor, because I found proof of it on my cell phone. I might still actually have that picture because I saved it to my Google Photos. Why? I don't know. I like hoarding photos. But I got a job at Omaha Public School. Don't know how. Woke up at my second oldest brother's house with him, my sister-in-law, my niece and nephew staring over at me like, hello, are you alive? Asked them where my car was. They had no idea, but I was only 5 blocks away from my friend Casey's house. So I walked down there, try to find my car. And, lo and behold, there's my car, completely wrecked. I had no idea I was in a car accident until I went and saw that car. Big spider web was probably that big. I'm pretty sure my whole torso went into that windshield. I found out that Rissa dropped me off at my brother's house. How I got in contact with Rissa? No idea. But it was probably a week later, and I found a picture on my phone of me laying on top of Jake. And I'm guessing that's probably why he laced the blunt with Xanax. After that fiasco, I started living with my brother, and my brother, my sister-in-law, and my niece and nephew. Um, but I kind of just kept all of my stuff there. I did not want to be around my niece and my nephew on drugs, which, you know, pretty smart of me. But I was able to keep all of my stuff there, which in the end didn't really work out for me because he threw it all away anyways. Um, so I was living on the streets. Um, oh God. So probably it was summertime. So mid 2015. Um, a flash from the, or yeah, flash from the past. That's that saying, right? Blast from the past, whatever. Flash from the past came back. When I lived in Blair, Nebraska, I lived in that quadplex, if you would. And my neighbor was driving through the town, saw me, and recognized me and said, "Hey, you want to ride?" And I said, "Absolutely." Um, he gave me probably one of the longest lines of meth I think I've ever snorted in my life. So he made advances on me in the car, and I jumped out of a moving car going about 45 miles per hour. I just felt off. I remember that feeling too. I tucked and rolled out of the car, but like before he had started driving again is when we did the drugs. And then um he was just making some weird advances. He had touched, that creepy thing that some guys do and they like try to caress your arms. Yeah, he did that to me and I looked at him and I said, "Oh, hell no." Fucking popped that door open and I rolled. Ended up on one of my aunt's houses. Her and her youngest kids came out the door and saw me laying on the front porch. I was passed out on the front porch. Oh man. Why did it do that? I don't know why I want to look at myself. But, I never saw that guy again after that, thankfully. But I found my aunt, Billy. Um, I was almost unconscious laying there. She took me in for about 6 months. During that time, I was trying to get sober off of meth. Because I realized, like, at that time, I found out I was anemic. Um, I had bruises up and down my fucking body. Uh, and I did good for probably 6 months. I think I was there for about 9 months, to be honest with you, because that's when Lindsay came back into my life. And lo and behold, Lindsay was on meth too. She came back in my life and got me right back on it. We moved out of my aunt's house. So when I lived with my aunt, I put my name on her Cox Communication bills. All of her bills had my name on it. She fucked me over hard. When I moved up to Minnesota, and I know this is jumping around a lot. When I moved back up to Minnesota, I found out that she never paid her Cox Communication bills. Like, at all. I had over $1,500, which is wild to me that internet service lets you rack up to $1,500. But I had that on my debt for me to deal with once I got sober. Now let's go back. So Lindsay came back. She's got 1,001 of those toys.
I know. It's no good.
Can you guys hear that? Kyla's chewing on one of her toys. Can you hear that?
Yeah, can you hear this fucking obnoxious beast of an animal chewing on that toy? Can y'all hear that shit? Unbelievable. No, it's
Yeah, she's literally on nylon.
psychopath.
If you can't hear it, then
Stop
it is
that.
what it is.
All right, we'll leave it be.
Okay. So I would be getting Billy Xanax quite often. She was a Xanax person. I got in touch with who happened to be my dad's best friend growing up. Lived in a little trailer park down across or in Iowa. But I got meth from him, I got Xanax from him. Lindsay found out and we ended up moving in with him. So I was selling for him a lot. It wasn't until like 6 to 8 months down the road where he realized what my last name was and realized who my dad was and told me, like, I can't fuck with you like that. Like, I can't be giving you drugs. Your dad will fucking murder me. Well, too late. You've already been doing it for this amount of time. What do you mean? You know? Um, that's actually when I met Corey. I was living at Al's house when I met Corey. And I had to fucking tell her first baby daddy what was up. But things went crazy. Al hated Lindsay. There was a point, I think it's late, I think November, December of 2015. He had to go out of state to go re-up. So it was only me and her. And he would have been gone for a week. Well, through 2015, somehow or another, my mom helped me and Lindsay get 2 cars. I got her a Prestige. What is that fucking car called? It was a manual. I had myself a Mitsubishi. She wrecked her car. And the time period that Al was gone, she came up to me and she said, "Give me your car keys." And I said, "Absolutely fucking not. Not happening. You wrecked your car. You realize that, right?" Prestige. That's what it was. She pushed me into a room. So we lived in a trailer park, or we lived in a trailer house. Fuck. And you know, like the tiny little square windows, that's really all I had. However, I couldn't get out for 6 days. She left me and our dog in there while she partied, went around, fucked other people, did all of that, took my car. When Al got back, he lost it. He got me out, took me to the hospital. I was pretty malnourished. I didn't have any food. I had a lot of fucking drugs, though. Didn't have any food. But, I found out then that I had tachycardia. And that was the first time. Thank you.
That's from Rob.
He said, "Give me some water."
Yep.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So so when I found out I had tachycardia, there was this girl that I called Mum, M-U-M, Mum. She was, crazily enough, her son was one of my cousins. The connection is weird. I'm not gonna get into all that, but she took me to her and Al took me to the hospital, and I had to go take a piss test. So as I'm walking to take a piss test, I faint. Woke up, had a catheter in me, woke up to them pulling it out. So thankfully they got their piss, but that's when I found out that I had tachycardia and that if I kept doing what I was doing, I wouldn't see the age of 21. Which is wild. Because I found this, I saw the age of 21, and I was still on meth at that time. Weird. But, so I moved back in with Al. That's when I met Jeremy. Who is the bane of, or was the bane of my existence. Met Jeremy because he got drugs from Al. And shortly after that, I started living, I moved out of Al's house and I started living with Um, Josina, his mom. Uh, I had brought Lindsay and my dog over to Josina's house. She had a pit bull she had a pit bull lab by the name of Gemma T, which is where Gemma came from. Um, she was something else. Josina was a meth addict as well. Um, I got really bad into the game with Jeremy. He started robbing people. I started selling a lot more than I did with Al. Um, um, and that's when Josina found out that she had breast cancer. So I found out I was real good at technology at that point. So while I was selling, people would come to me with Apple products, whether it's iPhones, tablets, laptops, whatever, and I would jailbreak them. I'd get them out of the lock and give them meth for it. But Jeremy used me to get certain guys attention so he could rob them. He was very verbally and mentally abusive. He never laid a hand on me, but I think I'd rather have that at compared to what I went through with Jeremy. Um fuck. And January 27th, 2016, fuck, the fact that I have this date down. I showed up at this dude's hotel room to give him, to do a deal. Um, since I was pretty much homeless at that time, I mean, I know I was staying at Justina's house, but Justina's house was a trap house, and it was like you could never take a bath, you could never take a shower, you could never get your clothes washed. So I did all of that at this hotel room. Dude stormed the shower, ripped me out, threw me on the bed, and forced himself upon me. Told me that I was the devil and to sit in silence, and he covered my mouth and told me that he could just do whatever the fuck he wanted to me. I could not, he would not let me close my eyes. Every time I closed my eyes, he would hurt me in some type of way. So I had to stare at him the entire time. I went home, tell Jeremy. Jeremy yelled at me, told me it was my fault that it happened. Um, um, I didn't care. For some reason I had that lust or that feeling that he gave a fuck about me. When all reality, when I got sober, I realized that he didn't. Um, so I ran around with some people that when I told him, so Jeremy didn't give a fuck, but the people that we worked for gave a fuck. Um, uh, so they had me take someone over to this dude's house. Um, they pistol whipped him and handed him over to the Mexicans. Uh, that's all I'm gonna go further on that. I don't need to go any further on that. So, uh, we were moving a lot of stuff. I remember one time where our dealer came over and said, dude, I just saw the cops running by. You better get the fucking shit away. Jeremy made me drink meth bong water. I have a picture of my eyes from that day. But he told me you gotta fucking get rid of that and do not pour it down the sink or don't pour it down anything. They can get whatever the fuck they can out of that. No cops ever showed up. I drank meth bong water and I was higher than a fucking kite. That day, I rode my bicycle across Council Bluffs, Iowa in 15 minutes. Um, but his mom, I think the breast cancer just made her fucking angry. She fucking absolutely hated me, and I don't understand why. I saved her life with cannabinoids and marijuana up until I moved up to Minnesota. Um, she had breast cancer, and it metastasized once I left. It never moved. It never moved while I was there living with her because we fucking did all we could for her. And I wouldn't let her smoke any meth. But we had a lot of traffic running in and out of the house. I don't know if you've ever been in the meth gang, but in the meth gang, bicycles are fucking gold. I don't understand why. I think that is how it is across states. But uh fuck, I lost my train of thought. Um fuck. So mom was sick. Mom, and I called her mom, Justina is who I'm talking about. She was sick. Her cancer was getting worse because of the stress that Jeremy caused. Jeremy was never around. Um, Jeremy was Jeremy was fucking other people the entire time we were together. And I found out the day my aunt picked me up for treatment. Um, he would go spend our money at the casino while I did all of his drug deals, which came to bite me in the ass, but at the same time, it really didn't bite me in the ass because I'm sober to this day because of it. But um um one summer, I think it was in 2016. Yeah, 2016, I got really sick in the summer. That's when I ended up getting spider bites on my I got brown recluse spider bite right here on the inside of my thigh, and I also have one on the outside of my calf on my right leg. Because Jeremy insisted that we had a pile, like step pile up to our window that he could sneak in and out of. Brown recluses live in wood, if you didn't know. But I was having really bad kidney problems. So I was told to go to the hospital by my drug dealer. And I just wouldn't go. I didn't want to. At that point, I was, there was just so many crazy different things happening to me in my life. I got into deep depression. I just kind of dealt with the pain. I don't know how I dealt with that pain. Oh yeah, I do. Meth. But I at that point in my life, I believed I was never going to be good enough for anything. I thought that I stayed home. I thought that anytime I went outside, I was always getting in trouble with Jeremy, with Josina. So I cleaned the house. I would do our laundry. I would do everybody in the trap house's laundry. And then I had one of my friends, Paul, pick me up. And we went out to his house. I hung out with him and his daughter. We had a good time. As soon as he came to drop me back off, Jeremy had his ex-girlfriend in the bed. The bitch tried to help me through the window. She literally tried to help me through the window. And I looked at her and I said, why don't you go unlock the front door for me? So we went back to the bedroom. She sat where I slept. and she told me to call her phone. Somehow or another, her phone was underneath the sheets. And then Jeremy came out of the bathroom. So that's when I found out, like, I got kicked out because I was getting cheated on. Uh, Luckily, I had a friend named Bruce who I was able to give all of my stuff. He was able to keep all of my stuff. I could sleep there sometimes, but you know, he was living with other people too, so I didn't want to be a burden. And at that point, I kind of just went along with the life of addiction, the homelessness. I was sleeping under bridges, sleeping in park benches. Um, I believe that it was around that time where I stayed up for 16 days straight. Um, because I didn't have anywhere to go. I mean, I definitely could have gone home to my mom's, but at that point, I was so deep in my addiction, there was none of that happening. Um, Stayed up for 16 days, started hallucinating around day 15, 16. And I swear to God, there was people in every single direction just around me, talking to me, fucking whispering in my ear. Nobody was fucking there. Nobody was there. But um um that's when Jeremy told me to come back home. He knew he could use me mentally. He was very I I was in love with this guy. I thought I was, right? Come to find out, I really fucking wasn't. It was really the drugs, the crazy lifestyle. He was a fucking piece of shit. And he still probably is. I don't know. I don't really care. But um that is I was trying to I was trying to get out from underneath Jeremy's control. Jeremy had to know where I was, and if I wasn't at home, then I was always fucking someone else. Come to find out, it was really him fucking everybody else while I sat at home and did nothing but take care of his mom and the dogs and the house and the trap house that we fucking lived in. He literally got down on his knees and begged and cried and told me not to fucking leave town. I was gonna head to Colorado with one of my friends. Um, you know, why the fuck I stayed, it beats fucking me. But he snuck his way back into my life. It was at that point where his mom, we all had to move. Um, and I wasn't allowed to be there, which was fucking wild because my name was on all of the bills. So you can have my name on the bills, but you fucking hate me and I'm not allowed to be at that house. So I was staying in abandoned apartments, staying in abandoned houses that had like the boards on the windows and everything like that. And then we got this idea to start living in a garage. Um, Fuck. This is embarrassing, guys. This next part is pretty fucking embarrassing. So Amber was our drug dealer. All right. She's the one that she'll come into fruition a little later on, head on. But we were living in her garage. We lived in plywood, little house, like plywood wrapped in plastic. Had a like an air mat. No, it wasn't an air mattress. We had a what are those fucking things called? The thing that I want that we cannot have. A love sack. That thing. We had a love sack in there. We had to be as quiet as we could because her boyfriend didn't know we were there. She knew we were there within time. Um, I had to. So her boyfriend worked out of town. So when he was in town, We couldn't go inside at all. So I had to pee in Gatorade bottles. Which, if you're a woman, you know how difficult that fucking is. I had to go to a gas station to, do the other duties. But he found us the day before Christmas in 2016. He found us in the garage and he told us that he was gonna call the cops on us. And so we dipped, dodged, and ducked out of there. Um, then we kind of moved back into Jeremy's mom's house. She fucking hated that we lived there, but shortly after that, got kicked out again. Um, I would try to go and see Jeremy, and lo and behold, Jeremy would have other bitches there, and then he would lock me into he would padlock me into a garage that had absolutely no lights, no nothing. It was literally a dirt floor in the garage. But he would say, yeah, come to the garage. Come on, I'm in here now. So I would sneak in there. And then when I woke up, at the time I woke up, he'd be gone and I couldn't fucking get out. I think that happened probably every fucking time. It was fucking terrifying. If she found out that I was there, she tried to fucking kill me. And so when she was out, I would go take showers. There was one day I remember my drug dealer, which was fucking funny. My drug dealer asked if she could buy her drugs back for me. And now, as a sober person, my brain is like, you fucking idiot. She did 2 control buys on me. She was working with the cops. She got her dude, she got him federally indicted. And then she got me. She tried to get Jeremy, but it ended up being me because he was out fucking other women. Let me see. So what, 2017? I think it was in no, it wasn't in January 2017. I think that's when I got one of my control buys though. But March 2017, Justina told me she'd given up. She wanted to die. So I called our friend Paul, took her to the hospital. She got admitted into the hospital. Shortly after that, she had her breast removed. She was cancer free after that. Found out that following month that all the cancer was gone. They removed everything. At that point, Jeremy and I were very rocky on the streets. I was up. My schedule was 9 days up, 2 days of sleep. 9 days up, 2 days of sleep. And if I could, the 2 days fall asleep, right? I would give people drugs just to go take a shower, take an hour nap. In June of 2017, Mama Josina got evicted from her house. She needed help packing up. So we packed up, moved everything into a storage unit. In the middle of June is when I found out that I had a warrant out for my arrest. Didn't know why. Had no idea why. I hadn't done anything. I never got in trouble with the cops or anything like that. But lo and behold, I had a warrant out, which was crazy to me. I laid low as much as I could. On July 19th, 2017, I got jumped by 6 people. I was on my way to Amber's house, which was our drug dealer. I was literally... So here's Amber's house, here's the street, here's the house across the street. I was literally right in the alleyway behind the house across the street from my house where I was going to. And I got jumped by 6 people, three females, 3 men. I got picked up slammed on the gravel, and all I could do was this. I got kicked in the head, kicked in the back, kicked in the stomach. It turned out to be Gabby and my best friend that I grew up with, Maddie. Um, both jumped me. And then other people, I know who they are, but those two people it hurt me the most. Um, went over to went to Amber's house that day. She was there and she bandaged me up, which I don't know how she kept a straight face because she was the one that did the two controlled buy. She was the reason that I had a warrant out for my arrest. Um, um, so 2 days later, I was staying at a different friend's house and I slept for 16 hours that day. I woke up, I really fucking needed a cigarette. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. So we were gonna go pick up. We were gonna go grab cigarettes. We headed to Walmart, ride my bicycle, and fucking get pulled over because I don't have a light. By the way, if you ever ride your bicycle at night, have a flashlight, have some sort of light. Otherwise, you're getting pulled over. It's illegal. Um, oh, I totally forgot the first time I was ever arrested. I'll get back to that in a second. Let me finish this part. Cops, every single cop in Council Bluffs knew me because they knew my parents. They went to high school with my parents. So pull up on me, say, "Hey, Miss Pace, I need you to stop. Miss Pace, I know you have drugs on you." "No, the fuck I don't. Actually, check all of my shit." Threw my shit at him. Didn't have anything. I'm like, "Can I please get cigarettes?" And he was like, "Well, you have a warrant." And I was like, "All right." And I was arrested, got booked in jail. Let me rewind to, I think it was summertime of 2016. I was arrested for the first time for a weapons charge, which was my mother's fault. And I found out when I went and got sober and was in treatment that it was because of my mom that I had a weapons charge, which is now dropped off of my record. But I was riding on the front of my friend's bicycle and we got pulled over. He wanted to run, so we we fucking ran, and the cops threw me on the ground, picked me up by my handcuffs, literally just my handcuffs, sat me down. I was all of 85, 90 pounds soaking wet. So they didn't need to do that, but they found a knife, a throwing knife that I used for scratch offs. If you know anything about addicts, we love our scratch offs. But it was a centimeter over legal limit, and on my way to jail, the motherfucker told me, "I don't really need to take you to jail." So I looked at him and I said, "Then why are you taking me to jail?" Told me to get a good night's sleep, which, if you ever been to jail, when you're sitting in that booking room, there ain't no good night's sleep in there. And my uncle, not my grandpa, my uncle was a CO, is a CO at that same jail, which was fucking embarrassing. So fast forward back to July of 2017. In booking, I was told that my bail was $2,500 or $25,000. I was fucking devastated. I knew nobody was gonna pay my bail. On top of that, I found out after that it was doubled. So it was 50,000 because I had two different charges. I spent, well, I know I called my mom that night. She told me, she laughed and told me, "I'm not coming to get you out of jail right now." She came and visited me while I was in jail, had the bail money, and I was a complete CUNT to her. She asked me if I was done. I went off on her. And I regretted it because she walked out of that jail flapping that money. But I was released 11 days later. Luckily, my grandpa's a lawyer. And found out I was in jail. And by the grace of God, or whatever you want to say, I was released. had court, all that kind of stuff. Showed back up at Amber's house, found Jeremy there. Amber, to my surprise, looked at me and was like, "How the fuck are you out of jail?" And I looked at her and I said, "Well, my grandpa's a lawyer." And like I didn't recognize in my brain what that really truly meant until I went to treatment. So the end of July, Grandpa came up to the house that I was staying at, Amber's house, and said, him and my grandma, rest in peace. Um, him and my grandma looked at me. I have never seen my grandma cry so hard. But she looked at me and she's like, "This isn't you." My grandpa asked me if I was done with what I was doing to myself. I said yes. Told me to get a hold of my aunt, which is my stepmom's sister. And I she asked me if I was done. I said yes. She's like, "Okay, let me see what I can do." Well, during the meantime, my grandpa had dinner with the judge, who gave me two options: 50 years in prison or go to rehab, which wasn't that hard of a fucking choice. I chose rehab. However, the judge said that I had to go out of state. So in Iowa, there's really absolutely nothing, treatment wise, that is actually really that good. So I had to go to Hazelden up in Minnesota. But I don't want to jump too far. So I had about 3 weeks before my aunt was gonna come pick me up. So during that 3 weeks, Jeremy was doing his regular shit, playing games with me back and forth. We were staying in abandoned houses again. And she told me, my aunt told me that she would pay for Jeremy to go up and get sober as well. Thank God he fucking didn't, because I wouldn't have the beautiful life that I have now. But uh I on August 25th, it was the date that my aunt wanted to meet at Hy-Vee on Broadway in Council Bluffs. I was 10 minutes late. Which she thought she was going to have to search for me around Council Bluffs, but I honestly think I was done. I think at that point I was ready. I was done. And I wanted to just do better for myself, but at the same time I didn't. Oh my God, I completely forgot something. Sorry guys, I'm so sorry I'm back and forth. Before I got arrested in July, I tried killing myself. And I probably shouldn't say that way on Twitch, but I'm sorry, I just did. I love, the viaduct that has that yellow and orange things in Council Bluffs. I tried to jump off that bridge, and I was almost jumping off of it while some bypasser saw me and pulled me back by the grace of fucking God. That happened, I think, the beginning of July in 2017. But then I got arrested a couple weeks later. And then, August 25th happened. Went up to one of my aunt's houses in Nebraska, and on that drive, that was probably a 2-hour drive, Jeremy gave me a tablet of his, which was logged into his Facebook, which is the worst thing he probably could have ever done, but that was the best thing for me. Because that's when I found out he cheated on me with 70 other women throughout the time that we were together. So I really told him that he can go fuck himself. Um, and that following day, so August 26, 2017, was the first day that I stopped doing meth. I never touched it after that. Um, uh, so what, that following Monday, I went to whatever that following Monday is. I don't know. But went to Hazelden. I thought I was gonna go to their adult program, which is what I was told. We bought a whole carton of smokes for me, brought that whole carton of smokes inside of Plymouth, and no, joke's on you, Jessica. You get to go to treatment for the very first time with a bunch of 15-year-olds. I was 22. Um, couldn't smoke cigarettes. So that first day I walked out and I'm like, I can't do it. I can't fucking do it. So I smoked an entire pack of cigarettes in front of Hazelden. Um, uh, and then that was the start. I was in Hazelden for 51 days, inpatient treatment. I found out, I got paperwork that told me that Amber was the one who did the 2 control buys on me. I punched a wall. I talked to a tech there named Yasha, and he told me, like, look, this is a fucking new beginning for you. The first 2 weeks, or the first week and a half, I was asleep. My therapist, my counselor, my roommate, techs, other peers, everybody tried to get me out of bed. There was none of that. I told them, like, hey, look, let me just sleep. And once I sleep, I promise you, I will be better. They let me sleep. Week and a half, got up, got a picture of my brother and my sister. And it flipped a switch in my mind. I knew I couldn't have them in my life if I was not sober, if I wasn't doing good. There was no way in hell my dad or my stepmom would let that happen. So I decided that this is it. This is what I need to do. This is my only chance to have a better life. And I opened the fuck up. I told, that's where I met my best friend, Jenny. She knows everything about everything. Well, to the most part. There's a couple things that I just shared on here that she didn't know. But she is your goody two shoes while I am like the devil in the horns, you know what I mean? So like I was her backbone through. We went inpatient together, we did fellowship group together, we did outpatient together, we lived in a sober house together, and then I moved my stuff into her house or her apartment. But so October 13th, 2017, I graduated from inpatient treatment, which was a Friday the 13th. Graduated from inpatient treatment, went to fellowship in St. Paul, Minnesota, for 4 months. I moved out of there June 4th or 5th of 2018. Moved into my sober house. I met Gary June 13th, 2018. At a casino.
I don't need that story.
I'm not gonna tell the whole story. Nope, but I met him. And to be honest with you, before that, I wasn't looking for anything. I swore up and down I'm never gonna get into a relationship. I need to fucking work on me. But that day I met Gary, there was just, and it wasn't even the Batman, I don't think, but there was something that I was like, you know what? I fucking like this guy. We clicked. I gave him a nice little head rub. How do you know? do my nice little spidey skills with that. I went back to Iowa to court for the first time January 21st of 2018, I think. Yeah. And that's when the judge told me, like, hey, if you do what you are doing now, you look hella good, you continue doing what you're doing now, I will wipe everything from your record. And that's exactly what I fucking did. So I was on probation for about a year and 9 months. I got off probation, I want to say June of 2019. Yeah, got off probation June of 2019. I worked at Kohl's, and I fucking remember the day I was sitting in the bedding area. Well, I wasn't sitting in the bedding area, but I got a call from my probation officer. Stating, hey, I want to thank you for being the best probationee that I've ever had. I've never had to worry about you. But you never have to call me again. Continue keeping up the good work that you're doing. And I never fucking looked back. That is one thing that it blows my fucking mind in the line of work that I do. How it's so difficult for people to stay in this right path. And I share it every day. You have to find a life and build a life that you don't need to escape from. And I got lucky and I found that. I got real lucky with that. But at the same time, I did a lot of hard work. I fixed my insecurities. Hold on. I got my family back. Hang on, guys. I have not ever once felt like I needed to go get high on meth. I've never once looked back. But the shit is always there, right? But at the same time, I am such a fucking better person from all of the stuff that I went through. You hear a lot of people say that they regret their youth, they regret going through all the dark times that they went through. I don't. I have a lot of experience, a lot of life experience to give to my clients. I don't wish anything that I went through upon anybody, not even my worst enemy. Which I don't know if I have a worst enemy, but I don't wish it upon anybody. There was a lot of dark times, and to be able to grow through that, it was a fucking lot. It was a lot. But I started school in August of 2018. I graduated from outpatient treatment May 4th, 2018. I started working, I was working at the Mall of America at that time. But then I started school. I quit my Mall of America job, started working at Kohl's. I kind of went back a little bit, I'm sorry. But started school in 2018, did my generals at a community college, and then COVID hit in 2020, right? And everything got moved to Zoom. Everything got moved to online. And then I graduated from there, went to Mankato State University, um, got, well, I was going for psychology. I wanted to be a therapist. I wanted, like, a mental health therapist. Uh, and literally the last fucking semester of college, my advisor turned and said, "You would make a great LADC." And I said, "Yeah, absolutely. Kind of what I wanted to do." And he said, "Well, this last semester, you have to take, there's like 8 courses that I didn't have." Um, I did 8 fucking courses that semester. And it, I worked full time, did full time school, had Gary, had Carson, you know, so whenever I got home, I would, you know, do dinner, all of that, play with Carson, still have class from 8 to, or 6 to 8:30, I think, or whatever bullshit that was. I hated that class. But graduated on the dean's list. My thing says Magna, like the second one down, but it's actually, I graduated with a 3.9, which is wild to me. I was a CD student in high school, but I was on the dean's list every semester of my college. Um, Started an internship job at the same place that I currently work now in 2022. Um, Gary and I got married in 2023. I got into a car accident the day before our wedding, with Quaffle. Quaffle was there. My best friend, my childhood best friend, Allie, was there. And Quaffle's daughter. Still dealing with that stuff. I just had surgery from that this last April, but we moved into our house, I guess, January 2023. I forgot about that. Well, I didn't forget about that, but I forgot to say that. Um, and you know what? I mean, the last 8 years of my life have been nothing but beautiful. I've been able to grow a fucking phenomenal relationship with Gary and Carson, meeting him at 3. Uh, and I couldn't be any more grateful for them, for him, for that guy, letting me into their lives. Because I was 5 months sober when I met him. He didn't have to. He could have been like, hell nah, you got a lot of shit to work through still. But he didn't do that. We've had a fucking fantastic relationship, fucking fantastic marriage. We get through the hurdles together. And that's probably the favorite fucking part about it, is that we're a team. Yeah. 2023, got married. Got my internship, or a month before we got married, I finished my internship, got my ADCT, which is alcohol drug counselor temporary license. Since I got into a car accident, I got a concussion from that car accident. So I waited about July, August, September, November, December, January, about 10 months before I took my LADC exam, licensure exam. But I took that April 1st, 2024, and passed, with an 80%, and became a licensed alcohol drug counselor. Right now it's really, I love my placement of work, but things have just gotten a little weird over this last year. So might be soon looking for a different job or applying at other jobs closer to home. If you guys don't know, I drive an hour to work. And it fucking sucks. It really does. I love the place, but I can't love it more than the like, financially it's just not worth it anymore. But I can find a place like 20 miles down the road or something like that for about 11 grand more. So I think I'm gonna head that direction nowadays. But yeah, that's where we're at now. 2025, had surgery. I met you beautiful people. Fuck. And that's my story. You okay, Rev?
Yeah, I got a runny nose. Got allergies.
Runny nose?
Yeah, it's allergies.
Yeah. Welcome to this life of Jessica. Thank you. Thank you, Lo. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. I'm sorry that at some points I was back and forth. Now
I just dropped a TTS. We don't have headphones in at all.
Oh, shit.
You'll have to read it. Would you like to open up to questions?
Absolutely. Yep, I'm open to all questions. Any questions?
Before you drop questions, I will sidebar this.
Jess, I am so glad
Hold on,
you
I'm
turned
listening
your
to.
life around so we have the opportunity to get to know the wonderful person you've become. A courageous woman, with the ferocity of a lion and the heart of a sen. You provide encouragement and hope simply by surviving, and then thriving the way.
Or did it stop?
Yeah. Thank you, Big Red.
She read it all. I'm going to sidebar this. Jess
Okay.
said she found an amazing life. She did not find an amazing life. She found a broken ass dude that was in a very low point in life, and she fucking built something incredible. That was all Jess. Okay. It's all Jess. Without Jess, I would have never aspired to go beyond where I was at that point. So she's my inspiration every fucking day. To be the best me and be, a working partner in this relationship. So without her and her guidance, I would still just be a fucking sack of shit. And that's the best way I can put it. Carlia, you know where I was before I met Jess. It was not a good place. So she didn't find something, she created something. Sidebar that.
I'm gonna scroll first.
She's going to scroll through and catch some of the comments. There are a lot of beautiful comments. I can't thank you all enough for being here to show her support and love. It really means the world to both of us. But what an amazing woman. Absolutely amazing woman. There are people out there that have gone through a fraction of what she's been through and not survived to tell their story. So for her to have pushed on through all of that and be here today is nothing short of a fucking miracle. And it's a true testament to her strength as a person. So, yeah, open for any questions you guys might have.
Open any questions. Any questions, guys? I feel much better.
That's really incredible. There are things tonight that I found out that I never knew. And let me tell you, there are certainly some people I would like to find out in Council Bluffs, Iowa.
Yeah, there's.
Sadly, for the things I would like to do to them, there's no amount of money that could get me out of prison. Sadly. So there's that. We are going to end the YouTube and Facebook. We're going to go just Twitch here.
Yes, please. Is there any
So,
comments for anything else?
No, I mean, Jackie came in on Facebook, Cooley, and she came on Facebook, but didn't say nothing. Jackie
Okay.
said she's incredibly proud of your journey. Facebook, I would like to say it was nice seeing you, but fuck Facebook. We out. Okay, Facebook's over. YouTube.
Thank you, Quaffle.
It's fucking YouTube.